everybody, it's Lon.TV, and it's July 4th, so happy Independence Day to all of my fellow Americans, but it's also Monday, which means it's time for my weekly channel wrap-up, so let's get into it and see what's happening. The first thing I want to do, though, is thank our newest Patreon supporters, Carl R., Jacob Hopkins, and Travis Pataka, who all gave or will be giving on a monthly basis to the channel via Patreon. I want to thank you all for your contributions, as well as everyone who's been contributing, and all of you who watch on a regular basis too, because all of those things help this channel grow, and I want to thank everyone for their support. It means a lot, and things are really moving here, and it's been really exciting, and I want to thank you all for being a part of it. We'll talk more about Patreon a little bit later in the video. So what did we do this week? Well, I got a bunch of stuff done this week, actually. We looked at the NVIDIA Shield TV's new Plex server, and this is a pretty nice thing because you can actually do some transcoding on a relatively low-powered, at least from an energy consumption standpoint, device. So if you've been using a PC to maybe just serve videos to yourself, this might be a good alternative to act as your Plex server. You can have the box that you're watching on actually be the server for the media too. And it really does work quite well. I got about 2 simultaneous HD streams working with it, and you can see more about that in the video that I've got linked down below and above, so you can see that. And you can see how the HD Home Run now can work with Samsung Smart TVs without having to install any clients. A really neat little thing on the new Samsung televisions worth checking out. We also took a look at the Tesla Autopilot in the wake of a tragic accident that occurred in Florida in the past week, and I show you how Autopilot works and give you my thoughts on it. It's really no replacement for a human driver, but it's a nice enhancement of that experience, and you can see my full video as I'm actually driving in one of these cars and talking about the Autopilot. I do own a Tesla. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but it's a great car, and I think the Autopilot is a great feature, but it's certainly not something that you should rely on to drive you around. It's a very good way to reduce driver fatigue and help you see what's going on the road a little bit better, but it's certainly not a replacement for what you as a human should be doing while you're driving a car, and you can see more about that video down below. I also took a look at the Dell 4K S2817Q. They got to come up with better names for their monitors, and this is a lower cost 4K monitor. You can see how it stacks up and what I thought about it in the master playlist, and we took a look at the NVIDIA Shield's network storage capabilities, because part of that Plex server edition happening, they also added in the ability to mount network storage as a local drive. So you can point your Plex server at different things on the network to grab your media files, but it also works with some other apps like emulators too, and we put that to the test in that video. So pretty cool stuff there. And now I want to talk about some business, actually, the business of YouTube. And there is a great video up on Linus Tech Tips this week where they kind of detail their entire business model and where their revenue is coming from, some of the other side projects that they've taken on to help keep their business afloat. Really good stuff, actually, not only from the standpoint of just a really nice detailed story about how a business on YouTube runs, but also their policies related to sponsors and how they interact with them and what that means for viewers. Really great video, definitely worth checking out. And they also put up some really good pie charts of where all their revenue is coming in from. And I did this about a year ago, and I figured it was a good time to do an update on that to let you all know where my revenue is coming from. So let's take a look. I'm going to first show you, though, 2015. So this is January 1 through December 31st, 2015. You can get a breakdown of where all of my revenue is coming in as a percentage. So 56% of my revenue in 2015 came from YouTube. About 30% came from my Amazon affiliate link. So on my videos in the description, I always put a link to the product that I'm reviewing, and that revenue resulted in about 30% of my overall revenue from 2015. Fan funding was about 2%. That's also inclusive of the Patreon funds. And then we had some sponsorships as well from WD and a few other companies too. That amounted to 12% of my overall revenue. So you can see how dependent I am and many others are on the YouTube ad revenue. And unfortunately, when we get to 2016, you'll see that the YouTube percentage of revenue is declining. And it's not that I'm making more money here with other things. It's just that the YouTube portion of the revenue coming in is declining. I'm making less per video than I was a year ago. And this is the story that a lot of other YouTubers are dealing with also. Now, a lot of those other YouTubers blame it on ad blockers, and I'm sure that's got a part of the blame, but I think a bigger issue is just a matter matter of dilution and saturation, because last week I uploaded 5 videos, and every time a new video gets uploaded, that's a new piece of inventory that YouTube has to sell, and there's only so much money in the world. You can't sell everything all the time, and I think as more and more people upload more and more videos, especially ones that have a lot of length to them, a lot of longevity to them, it's going to be harder, I think, to rely on YouTube ad revenue solely for continuing your channel. YouTube Red really hasn't been a very good revenue earner for me at all. I wasn't expecting it to be, but it's really just a very, very small portion of the overall YouTube ad revenue. And part of the problem with YouTube Red is that even if you just watched me as a YouTube Red member, I don't get the full share of your YouTube Red dollars. It all goes into a big pool, and they dish it out based on the total number of dollars in the pool and the total number of minutes that everyone in the pool watched. So even though you might watch me exclusively, a portion of your Red revenue is going to go to people you don't watch at all, because it's one big pool of money, and unfortunately it's going to hurt smaller channels, I think, moving forward. But this is just a reality of economics here. There's a supply and demand, and there is a lot of supply, and demand is increasing, but I think supply is increasing at a greater rate. So I think we'll see probably next year this YouTube number maybe decline to 45%. Who knows? We'll see what happens. One good thing that could happen, though, is that as more and more media kind of transitions over to the web, YouTube is very well positioned to be kind of the television network of the future here. So it could mean that there's more advertising dollars coming, which would increase the demand, but we'll have to see. There's a lot of supply out there, and we're all uploading more and more videos every day, which adds to that. In fact, my most popular videos are also my oldest. I think 3 or 4 of my top 10 I made about 2 or 3 years ago. Just gives you an idea of how long these videos can live for, especially the entertaining ones that don't have a time stamp to it. But you can see, though, some growth in some areas here. The Patreon and fan funding is growing quite nicely, as is the Amazon revenue, but it's certainly a little scary just to rely on one revenue source. So I'm always looking at ways to diversify, and we'll probably, appropriately take more sponsors moving forward too, and hopefully I'll have a little bit more time to devote later this year to getting some more appropriate sponsors for the channel. So stay tuned. Just wanted to give you an update on that. I thought that Linus Tech tip thing was really interesting, so definitely check it out. And you can also see where my revenue is coming from. And actually, our revenue streams are very similar, I think, and it might be true of many channels, big and small. And now it's time for some Q&A. We got a really good question here from Richard Thompson, who noticed that all of the reviews of the new AMD RX 480 graphics card were posted at 9 a.m. Eastern, the day that he wrote into my Facebook page to ask this question. He's wondering if there's any funny business going on, and there really isn't, but this is a practice that you may or may not be comfortable with. This is called an embargo, and basically what happens is that a manufacturer will send out a product to publications ahead of that product's release, and they ask in exchange for that early access for those publications not to post their reviews until after a certain time. So what happened here, clearly 9 a.m. was when the embargo was lifted, and that is when all the content got up onto YouTube and other places. And it's something that companies do because they like to have a big, huge amount of content happening when their products are released. In the case of AMD, this was a very important product for them, and it's better to have everything happening at once, both their marketing materials, the Newegg and the Amazons getting the product in stock, and having this slew of reviews appearing all at the same time, because it really builds the buzz. And I think if you looked at a lot of the computer publications over the last week, this really was the talk of the town because of that embargo, that people weren't talking about it earlier. Maybe they were speculating about it, but not actually talking about the product itself. But 9 a.m. happens, now everybody's talking about it. AMD's got their stuff going out. And of course, it's showing up on retail shelves for consumers to buy. And this is something that, some journalists aren't comfortable with. Some absolutely refuse to abide by embargoes, and when they're offered one, they don't take it, and they wait for the product to be released. In this case, because it's a product that is in short supply and high demand, that I think a lot of people would like to have the opportunity to have it on hand so they can get their review up and be competitive with other publications. So there is a bit of a, in a journalist's mind, they have to think about whether or not this is something they want to do, because you are making an agreement with a company that you are covering, but at the same time, there's no expectation that your review needs to be a good one either. And I think that's really what most journalists look at when making one of these decisions to agree to this. I've agreed to a couple of embargoes in the past, and I'm glad I did, because I was able to get things up ahead of time, and that was really helpful, both from my own schedule, but also from a competitive standpoint, given that I am a small channel. But other journalists decide not to do that, and they wait for product release date, and they go out and buy it and review it. So it's just, I don't think there's anything unseemly about it. It's just something that has been happening in the consumer electronics world for a long time, and I'm sure will continue in the future. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on embargoes, so definitely leave them down in the comments below. And our next question came in from a bunch of people, and they were responding to the Dell 4K monitor review I did this week. Now, that monitor was a 28-inch display, and a bunch of folks wrote in saying, hey, you need at least a 40-inch display to make a 4K monitor useful. Now, I don't have a desk big enough to accommodate a display that big, but there is actually a reason why smaller displays are running at higher resolutions, and it's because you can scale the pixels. And the best example would be to pick up your cell phone if you have one of those Quad HD displays or a Retina display on an iPhone, because what's happening is that they're doubling or quadrupling in some cases the pixels on the display so that you get the same size of icons and text and everything, but it's super sharp because you have more pixels being used to generate those images. And I've got over here, let me switch over to my other camera, a Dell laptop. This has got a 4K 15-inch display, and that's kind of ridiculous when you think about it, but we have the display scaling turned on right now, so we have everything scaled up at about 225%. And from a screen real estate standpoint, I have pretty much the same available screen real estate as I would with a 15-inch monitor at 1080p, but everything is super sharp and looks really, really nice on this display. Now, let me show you what happens if I turn it down to just a 1:1. Look how tiny everything gets. It's almost impossible to read the text. So this is the true native resolution of that display, but what most operating systems do is they bump up the scaling on those pixels so that you can see stuff on the screen and get a super sharp image as a result. So you have greater pixel density. It becomes more like a printed page than it does a screen, and that is why small screens run at high resolutions right now. And again, the best example would be your smartphone with a super high resolution display, because if you were actually to make your smartphone a 1:1 as to what its native resolution is, you wouldn't be able to see anything on the screen. But when you do that scaling, it looks wonderful and really sharp and really nice to look at. Now, this next question is one that I get a lot from folks, and that is, what is my day job? And I was expecting to get quite a number of these questions when I was driving the Tesla around, because I knew people were going to be curious when that video posted. So my day job, and I answered this a few times on a few live streams, but not here officially. So my day job is at a company called The Safety Zone. And this is a company that my father founded about 45 years ago or so. And on June 1st, we were just acquired by a much larger company called the S.P. Richards Company, which is a division of a larger company called the Genuine Parts Corporation. And I'm now an employee of that company, so I must disclose that all the opinions you hear on this video are my own and not reflective of my employers, because it's in the employee handbook that I need to mention that when I'm doing videos like this one. So what we do is manufacture gloves and safety equipment. We do a lot of food service stuff. We have a lot of private label gloves that we make for many popular retailers around the country, and it's a company that started very small. In fact, when I was a kid playing with all the technology behind me, my father was running the business out of the house. He put an addition on the house, kind of like what I did in the basement here, and was running the business out of what used to be our garage. And it's really a true American story of starting from scratch and building up a large company. And it was just an amazing experience, both for him obviously, but for me as a kid growing up, because I was always doing things that a lot of kids wouldn't do at work. So a lot of my friends were washing dishes or delivering papers or something. I was doing payroll and accounts receivable, and wherever I could be put in at a cheap price is where he would put me. And for a long time, especially when I was in high school, when I got my driver's license, I would work all week and then give my check back to my father, and he'd hand me back $20 to cover my gas money for the week, because the rest of it went to insurance. But it was just a great experience growing up in that environment, and I really kind of, over the years, gravitated towards the IT side of things, because I had a very active interest in technology, and it benefited the company because we were able to do a lot with a little, and I really was very eager to try to figure out ways we could build a robust IT infrastructure with not a lot of money. And that is why I think on the channel I tend to gravitate towards a lot of these cheap PCs and show you all the things that you can do with them that you might not expect out of a $99 computer, for example. So that is really where my day job has been over there for many, many years. I've done some other things in life also. I kind of took a few leaves and went off and did a few different things in the political world for a while, but for the most part, my day job is and was at the Safety Zone, and will continue to be for some time in the future. And this is my evening job. So I used to call this a hobby. Now it's more of an avocation, I think. So I come home at night, and after the kids are in bed and everybody is settled in, I run down here and work on my product reviews. Weekends are really when I try to get a lot of the evaluation stuff done, and then I try to shoot during the week. And it's been a lot of fun. I'm definitely, it's definitely a lot of work, both, juggling the day job, family, and this, but I really do love what I'm doing with this. And what happens is that when you're the son of an entrepreneur and having entrepreneurial instincts myself, that when you have something that's growing, you really feel the need to just keep pushing at it, even if it means you don't get a lot of sleep during the week. And that has been my approach to the channel. And some folks asked actually in the course of that other question as to, where does all the money come from for all the stuff that I review here on the channel? Well, the answer is that for a lot of things that I buy, it actually comes from the channel itself. And really my investment in this channel out of pocket was probably maybe about $1,500 or so. The rest of the investment has come from the earnings that the channel has made, and that's been really gratifying to me, including the space that I'm in. Now, I haven't taken out any money out of the channel for my own personal use. It's all gone back into the channel, but it's been really gratifying to be able to build something from scratch with just myself, and hopefully in a few weeks we'll have employee number one, at least part-time employee number one, hired to help make things a little bit more efficient. So that is the day job. If you are out looking for gloves, look for that logo. We're mostly in the industrial side of things. In other words, we're selling to big suppliers who then you sell their products to big restaurants and other chains and stuff. But we are starting to make some retail gains as well, so definitely be on the lookout for that logo. And if you are working in a food service environment or in a janitorial environment, you may have seen or are using our products now. I'd love to hear your thoughts on them, so definitely leave them down below. So that is that. Q&A for you time. I want to recap what we saw last week. I got a bunch of great technology memories from folks. I'm probably going to do a few recaps of that over the next couple of weeks. I got a bunch of them that I really wanted to talk about, but we only have time for one this week. Maybe I'll do a few more of these next week. And this one was great because it came in from Recipe Bob, and he noticed that I have behind me a Timex Sinclair 1000, and that was his favorite gadget from his youth, and it was actually my first computer, and I still have it right over here. So this is it. I'm going to pull it out here along with the tapes that it used to run on here. So let me switch over to my second camera here. We'll go switch over here in front of the new Dell. It's kind of a contrast here. So I think I got this in 1980 or so. My father was watching something on New York television. So I'm in Connecticut, but we get the New York TV stations here. And WPIX 11 had this really crazy auction show where this guy would hawk stuff and people would be shouting prices at him, and they would set this low price and then they would keep reducing it, and then they would entice you to call and order it. So they had this Timex Sinclair 1000. I think we paid like $150 or something for it. And this is a computer, and I think in Great Britain they call it the ZX Spectrum, maybe. I think this is a family member of that computer. And what this is a very low-powered device that had its software on cassette tape. So you could either type it in with this membrane keyboard, which would take forever, or you would take out your cassette player and put these tapes in, and then have those tapes just with analog audio get shot down into the device here for playing things back. Now this computer has 1K of RAM on it. That's it. So this Dell's got 16 gigabytes. This is 1K. It's not even, it's like a tenth of a megabyte. So actually more than that. So a megabyte is 1024K. This is 1K. So it just gives you an idea of really the exponential growth in technology we've seen over the last 30 years or so. Now there was a module, I have one of these somewhere in the basement, a little 16K add-on module to get more memory onto the computer. And you would plug it into your television and just start using it. It was really, it's a computer for all intents and purposes, just wasn't all that powerful, but it was very low priced for the time, because I remember when we got our Apple IIe, my father bought it for the business when he was first getting started, and I think he spent close to $5,000 on the Apple IIe when you factored in the cost of the computer, the 128K RAM module he had to buy for it, the disk drive, and everything else. So this was really, a lot of people started off with these because they were affordable and you could program them. You could do a lot of what you could do on a more expensive computer, but you could get in the door with this and start learning personal computers. So pretty cool stuff. This little tape here required 2K of RAM, so you had to have the RAM thing installed in order to even run a lot of the software on there. But pretty cool stuff, and it was neat to hear from Recipe Bob on that. So for this week, I would love to get your thoughts on cheap PCs that I should be on the lookout for, because somebody brought one up the other day in a comment that I hadn't heard of, and it was on Indiegogo, so I went out and grabbed one. So that should be here hopefully in the next couple of weeks. But I'd love to get from you if there's any mini PCs that look interesting to you out there. I'm looking for more unique things now, because what's been happening is the more of these cheap PCs TVs I've gotten in, they all look the same because they're often made at the same factory. So what I'm looking for now are things that have unique form factors that look like there's a little bit more of a less generic design that went into them, because a lot of this generic stuff often has very bad consumer experiences in the end. We saw it in the early days of some of our reviews of these cheap PCs that they weren't including full Windows licenses and a whole bunch of other shady things. So I'm really sticking to interesting stuff here. So let me know if you find anything interesting, and I will consider purchasing that for a future review. So this week I got a couple things shot already that will be posted a little bit later on. So we've got a Lenovo IdeaPad 700. This is a 15-inch laptop with a discrete GPU, very similar actually to their gaming laptop, but it has a less powerful GPU, and it's also a little bit smaller. And I think this is something where if you want to play some games in your computer, but you don't want to lug around a big gaming machine, this one might be an alternative, but it is a little bit less powerful in the graphics department, but a lot more powerful in the graphics department than many computers that don't have a discrete GPU. So you can see that review probably going up tomorrow night, so be on the lookout for that. We also got a rather interesting Internet of Things thing. I've been trying to find more of these devices because I really am interested in them. And this is a little thing you stick on top of your light switch, and it turns it into a smart switch. This connects to your phone via Bluetooth, and you can control your phone or your light switch with your phone and add some timers and some other stuff. It's not as smart as they make it out to be, and you'll see why when that review gets posted probably Wednesday or Thursday of this week. I also got in some hard drives from Seagate and CalDigit, so we'll be looking at some storage this week too. So lots more to come on the channel this week. Now, if you want to help the channel, you can go to Lon.TV/Patreon and make a monthly contribution to the channel, or you can do a one-time contribution on our YouTube fan funding page at Lon.TV. I got to update that image because I only had 27,000 subscribers when I made it. Now we're at 96,000 and change, but all those contributions do help. We are going to be bringing on part-time employee number 1 soon. I've finally got all the insurance stuff worked out. I just have to file my business documents with the state, and we'll be able to get that person started up very shortly. So hopefully that will happen in the coming weeks here as I get settled down for the summer a little bit. Now, if you want to connect with the channel, you can do that at Lon.TV/email. To get on my weekly email list, we have our Facebook page at Lon.TV/Facebook, Reddit at Lon.TV/Reddit, and you can buy the stuff that I've purchased previously and am done reviewing on the store at Lon.TV/store, so you can get some new stuff at used prices, so pretty good place to go. And I'm going to make an announcement that I forgot to add as a slide. We're going to start doing a weekly giveaway here on the channel. I'm collecting a bunch of stuff so I can get a good amount of items banked up here for the giveaway. We'll probably be starting with that $315 gaming PC that we built a couple of weeks ago. I got one more video to do with it related to running the Steam OS on it, but once that's done, I will give it away. So be on the lookout. Definitely get on the email list. I'll announce it on the wrap-up, but I will also put an announcement on the email list. And my goal here is really to start trying to get more subscribers too. So hopefully you can spread the word. Even if it means more competition for you on the giveaway, it'd be great to get ourselves to 100,000 subscribers by the end of the summer. So let's do it. Let's see if we can get it done, and the giveaways hopefully will help do that. So that will do it for this week on the channel. This is Lon Seidman. Thanks as always for your viewership. Please keep those questions and comments coming, and there's much more, you know what I mean, more to come. This is Lon Seidman. Thanks for watching. This channel is brought to you by my Patreon supporters. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to Lon.TV/Patreon to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit Lon.TV/S.